There was a time when Barbie movies were actually iconic. And if you know, you know. I'm not talking about just childhood nostalgia. I'm talking about movies that actually had something to them. Stories you could follow, characters you cared about, songs that stayed in your head for years. Like, you could randomly remember a scene right now and still feel something. That's how strong they were. But now, it's different. And I think a lot of people have noticed it, but no one really sits down and explains it. Because somewhere along the way, Barbie movies stopped feeling like events and started feeling like something you forget the second it ends. And that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. Because we've already seen what this franchise can do. We know how good it can be. So what actually changed? Because if you go back to the OG era, those movies had range. Princess and the Pauper, that wasn't just a kids movie. That was storytelling. The music, iconic. The characters, completely different from each other. The message actually meant something. Even something like 12 Dancing Princesses. Simple idea, but the execution pulled you in. You wanted to keep watching. And then there was Fairytopia, which honestly felt like its own universe. Like you could just sit there and get completely lost in it. That's what those movies did. They made you feel like you were part of something bigger. Now compare that to what we're getting today, and the difference is very obvious. The newer movies feel smaller, less detailed, less emotional, and honestly, less memorable. Like, think about it. When was the last time a Barbie movie gave you a moment that stuck with you? Not just while watching, but after. Exactly. And a lot of people try to explain this by saying, you just grew up. But I don't think that's the full reason. Because good stories don't stop being good just because you got older. If anything, you start appreciating them more. So the real issue is not age. It's the shift in how these movies are made. Because back then, it felt like the story came first. Everything else came after. Now, it feels like the focus is different. Like the movies exist just to support something else. And you can feel that difference. The characters don't feel as layered. The conflicts don't feel as serious. Even the villains don't hit the same anymore. And that's a big one. Because villains used to actually feel like a threat. They pushed the story forward. They made you care about what was going to happen next. Now, everything feels softer, safer, like the tension is missing. And without tension, the story just feels flat. And I think another major change is the audience they're targeting now. Because it feels like everything is being made specifically for very young kids. Like, really young. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But the OG movies weren't limited like that. They worked for kids, but they also worked for older audiences. There were layers. You could rewatch them years later and still find something new. Now, it feels like that depth is gone. Everything is more surface level, more simplified. And in trying to make it accessible, they lost what made it special. And I think that's why so many OG fans feel disconnected now. Because it's not just about nostalgia, it's about effort. Back then, even when the animation wasn't perfect, you could feel that they were trying to make something meaningful, trying to create something memorable. Now, it feels more like they're just maintaining the brand, keeping it alive, but not really pushing it forward. And that's frustrating, because the potential is still there, the audience is still there, people still care. You can see it online all the time. Clips from old movies, going viral. People quoting lines, singing the songs, revisiting those moments. So clearly, it's not like Barbie lost relevance. It's just that the newer content isn't connecting in the same way. And I think that's the biggest issue. Because we've already seen what this franchise is capable of. We've experienced it at its best. So when the quality drops, it's not subtle. You notice it immediately. And maybe things can change. Maybe they'll go back to stronger storytelling. Maybe they'll start making movies that feel bigger again. But right now, it just feels like something important got lost along the way. And once you notice that, you really can't ignore it anymore.